A very warm good afternoon to all the dear students, and I warmly welcome all the SYBBA students to this class. First of all, congratulations on successfully completing your first phase of graduation. I am Professor Juhi Agrawal, and I shall be taking up the subject of business startups and innovation along with Nandish sir. You all are aware that you are the first batch going through the new structure which has been introduced by VNSU. We have a new range of subjects which are being introduced this time. I'm sure you all would have gone through the new subjects, but this time, if you have clearly noticed, there is an increased focus on innovation, startups, and entrepreneurship. Obviously, there has to be some reason behind it. Nowadays, the youth of India, in fact, the youth of the entire world, is not just running blindly after jobs. I'm sure, and it is very much essential to have money in life. But at the same time, the youth wants to do something different, something innovative, something out of the box. And it is not just restricted to the youth which is graduating from the topmost colleges. In fact, there are many people who have come up from the rural areas and they have started taking up innovative jobs. They have started taking up something new and have shown to the world that they can do much better even on their own. A very famous example is of our movie Padman, where you can see that a very uneducated, not so educated person has made a huge change and is invited to the topmost colleges around the world to share his knowledge. So that is something we all are proud of. In fact, a lot of times nowadays, the youth from the topmost colleges, the topmost engineering and business schools, they are leaving behind the huge packages that they are getting from the college themselves, and they are striving to achieve something on their own. So that is something extremely praiseworthy, and that is something, which is very much to be admired of. Obviously, there have been various successful startups in recent times. इनफैक्ट अगर वो स्टार्टअप्स नहीं होते तो हम कहाँ से घर पे बैठे बैठे फ्रॉम वेर एवर वी वांट वी वुड हैव ऑर्डर्ड आवर ओन फेवरेट फूड. So Zomato is one such app. Zomato, Swiggy, Uber Eats, these are the apps which have made all that possible. अगर हमें कहीं जाना होता है तो we don't have to go down, we don't have to stand in the heat on the road and wait for an auto or wait for a taxi. In fact, we can just sit at our homes in the air conditioned room and order our cab, and as soon as it is there at our gate, we can just go down, sit inside it, and travel to our destination. So all these comfort areas, all these comforts that have been provided to us in recent times is not something which has directly come up. There have been entrepreneurs who have worked day and night to make us realize, to make us gain those particular comforts. And they have started their own startups, after which we have been able to gain those comforts. But at the same time, it sounds very fancy. It sounds very, very, very enchanting that, yes, I have opened a startup or I am an entrepreneur. But do you really think that it is a piece of cake or it is a cakewalk for an entrepreneur? Do you really think nowadays we are so much fond, and we have heard so much about the famous startups such as Paytm, Uber, Ola, but what about the thousands or the lakhs of other startups which get ended or which get finished even before they have started their journey? So after every, out of lakhs and lakhs of startups, there are very few startups which are able to achieve the success ratio or the success mantra that all of them are striving for. So no matter how fancy, no matter how beautiful, no matter how praiseworthy it sounds, it is not so easy in real life. A lot of efforts are required to be put in, especially by the entrepreneurs. Giving birth or starting your own startup is just like giving birth to your own child, where every small requirement has to be taken care of by the entrepreneur. अगर आपको कोई Xerox पे निकालना है तो the entrepreneur has to stand up on his own, go there, go to the printer, take out his own Xerox and come back to his own table, because there are not so many comforts that you can just easily shout out to the peon and he will come and he will get you your Xerox. So a lot of things have to be done on your own. You are obviously on a budget because your startup is something which is generating very, very limited revenue, but at the same time, burning cash like anything. How do you think that Uber and Ola are able to provide us so many huge discounts? The fare, which should approximately come to about 700 or 1,000, they are charging like about 400 or 500 many a times. How is it possible? It is because there are a lot of people who are backing up that particular startup and who are providing money, and those startups are burning cash like anything. In fact, no matter how fancy they sound, if you would go into their books of accounts, you will find that a lot of these startups are loss-making entities. That is, they are not making any profit since a lot of years, which is a big, big deal in the industry. It is not easy. It is not very, very feasible to run an enterprise or to run a unit which is not giving you the required profits. And because of that, there are a lot of venture capitalists, or there are a lot of other deep pocketed people who are able to share the burden, and that is why these startups are able to run. In fact, a lot of times after these startups have gained a lot of fame and stardom, many entrepreneurs or many venture capitalists sell these particular startups to the bigger entities, which will be able to sustain these startups at a good level. For example, even WhatsApp was sold to Facebook. So these are the things which are required to be done by entrepreneurs, because it is not very, very easy. In fact, it's very difficult to keep on running a loss-making startup. So this was about the subject that we are going to do. The name of our subject is Business Startups and Innovation, which is all going to be about the startups that are founded by different entrepreneurs. So first of all, I'll like to take you through the syllabus that we have. There are going to be 4 units this time in this particular subject. Now, talking about unit number 1, that is location of an enterprise and steps for starting a small enterprise. You all would be aware of it that whenever any business has to be started, or whenever any enterprise has to be started, it is very, very important to know that where that particular enterprise is located. Obviously, it is very, very important to know that where that enterprise is located. But why so? Why the location plays a very, very important role? Do you think that, suppose an enterprise, or suppose a startup is started in New York, do you think that if that particular startup was started in Madhya Pradesh or in a village in Kerala in India, it would have the same success ratio? Is it possible? No, definitely it is not possible. There are a lot of aspects which go into deciding that where a particular startup has to be given the location, and that is why it is very, very important. There are a lot of things that go into a startup. For example, the resources, the requirement of natural resources, the requirement of what can we say, the requirement of water, or the requirement of labor. So if suppose a particular startup is in requirement of water from a river, and at the same time it is located very, very far from a river, so do you think it will be possible to run that particular enterprise successfully? No, definitely no, because the transportation costs of that water from the faraway river would be very, very high, which would make the business unsustainable. So we have to come to the best location from which our cost of getting all the resources from different places is the minimal. And that is why we have our top-notch executives, which are always involved in taking the decision as to where a particular enterprise or as to where a particular startup should be located. So definitely that is one of the major aspects that is required to be taken care of. Again, the next aspect in this particular unit is the steps for starting a small enterprise. You all would have heard that, starting any business or starting any enterprise is a very, very, very difficult task. And let me tell you, in fact, let me warn you, it is not just because of the resources that you need. That is one very small aspect that is definitely there. But at the same time, it is because of the legal requirements that are required to be fulfilled. And that is a very, very, very difficult task. In fact, I have read somewhere by Mr. Narayana Murthy. He's a founder of Infosys, and he had said that earlier, before 1991, if he had to take any permission from the government for any industry or for any particular thing, he would have to wait for a week, or he would have to just roam around in the corridors of the government buildings for hours and hours and hours before he could get a single signature on any piece of paper. So that was something, which was red tapeism, and because of which there was a lot of difficulty for the businesses to start or to obtain permission for any particular thing. Obviously, the scene is not the same as like before 1991, because there was something very, very different. There was something very, very important that took place in 1991. Do I need to remind you all what it was? Yeah, I'm sure you all must be knowing. It was the concept of LPG that was introduced in India in 1991. Now, what exactly LPG is? It is the concept of liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So in 1991, what happened suddenly? That India had to open up its economy. India, since 1947, it was operating as a closed economy. A lot of things were red taped, and everything was running under the control of the government. But what happened in 1991, that India had to take such a huge step in such a short period of time? Definitely there was something very, very, very important that took place in that phase of time. And it was that India's foreign exchange reserves, they had taken a huge dip. They were so low that India could not even afford paying for its petrol and diesel for even a short period such as 1 week. This was the condition of India's foreign exchange reserves, because of which India had to take the drastic step of opening up its economy and of introducing LPG. After which the people were able to obtain permissions easily, and in fact the trade between the other countries was made much easier by the government. So in that particular case, again, after LPG, things have become easier for the people. But again, there are a lot of legal requirements that are required to be fulfilled by the people, and then only a small enterprise can be started. Obviously, in India, we have a lot of bureaucracy also. The corruption rates are also very high, because of which things are a bit difficult as compared to other developed nations. But still, India is making good progress in this particular aspect. So again, in unit number 1, we shall see that how a small scale enterprise is started, which are the departments which are involved in this, and what are the steps for registration of a small scale enterprise, and how are the aspects of infrastructure, machinery, raw materials, finance, marketing, and incentives are taken care of in this particular aspect. Obviously, if any company is registering itself as a small scale industry or a small scale enterprise, there are a lot of benefits which are being given to that particular company in terms of, say, infrastructure, machinery, raw materials. So the government does try to make an effort and help the industries which are operating at a small level. Because definitely, it is not always possible that a country is successful only and only by its large-scale enterprises. Now, if we come to think of it, the big names, there are very, very limited big names which are there. It is not possible that those big names will be able to provide employment, will be able to provide good growth for the entire economy. It is not possible. In fact, even the unemployment rates are very, very, very high in India as compared to the other developed nations. So it is the requirement of the time. It is a very, very crucial requirement that instead of asking our people to go and obtain jobs somewhere else, we should encourage the people to generate jobs instead of going and asking for jobs. And how is it possible? How is generation of jobs possible? It is only and only possible if we are starting our own enterprises, if we are starting our own businesses, if we are starting our own industries. And then only it is possible that we are able to generate jobs. So there was one person who was looking for a job, but then he started his own startup. And instead of looking for a job, now he is the one who is providing jobs to 10 other people. So what can be a bigger achievement than this? And India is one nation which is in dire requirement of entrepreneurs like these, who are able to start their own small scale enterprises and who are able to provide jobs to other people. So to make all this possible, even government is taking a lot of efforts, and they are helping those enterprises in terms of infrastructure, in terms of providing them land at reasonable rates, and also in terms of providing them with good finance opportunities, marketing, incentives, raw materials, etc., etc. So yeah, definitely this unit number 1 is going to be a great learning experience for all of you, I'm sure, because this is something which will help you gain a lot of insight into how the location should be selected and what should be the steps for starting a small enterprise. Now, coming towards the introduction for unit 2, that is selection of types of ownership organizations and incentives and subsidies. So अब यहाँ तक तो ये हुई बात कि भाई you will be starting your own startup, but are all startups of the same types? Are all startups operating in the same way? Are all startups having the same way of functioning? Is it possible that all the startups will be just partnership firms, or all the startups will be just sole proprietorship firms? Is it possible to have something like this? What do you think? So definitely no, it is not possible that all the startups are operating in the same way. There are different firms which are there. So this is something which you would have gone through in your 11th and 12th standard also in school, that we have different types of businesses that are there. For example, we have a sole proprietorship, we have a partnership firm, we have joint stock company, we have cooperatives. So these are the 4 main different types of entities that we are going to study and we are going to go through in this particular unit. So coming to now, that what do you understand by a sole proprietorship? What do you think a sole proprietorship is? I'm sure all of you must be knowing. Sole proprietorship, the word itself indicates that there is just one member which is the owner of that particular business. So in case of sole proprietor, suppose I am there and I want to start a business of, say, manufacturing bottles. So I will be the only one which is going to be the sole owner of that particular business. And there will be no XYZ person who is the owner along with me. Definitely, I will have people who are working under me, and definitely I will have someone who is going to help me in that particular aspect. But they are not going to be the ones who are going to take decisions on my behalf. I'm going to be the sole decision maker, and I'm going to be the sole owner of any particular organization. So that is about sole proprietorship, in which I will be the one, a single owner of any particular business. So again, in case of professionalism also, and in case of business also, there are a lot of people who are operating as sole proprietors. Definitely, they have their own merits, they have their own limitations, which we will discuss when we are going through the chapter. Now, next we have the concept of partnership organization. Now, partnership, again, the word itself indicates, jab hum chote the, to in school also, we used to have a partner. If you're sitting on a desk, there is someone sitting besides you and you both are equals. So you used to call yourselves as partner, ki bhai, this person is my partner, or I am a partner to this particular person. So partnership means that, if there are 2 or more than 2 people who are operating at the same level and who are working together towards a specific objective, and they are dividing their profits and losses, they are sharing the entire burden of the business. So that is something which is known as a partnership organization. So suppose if I start a business, then in that particular case, if suppose, I, Juhi and Sarthak, there are 2 people who have started a particular business and they are in the ratio of 1:1. So in that case, if suppose my business requires a capital of rupees 100, then we both will be contributing rupees 50 each towards that particular business. And later on, if suppose we are earning a profit of rupees 1000, then we will be dividing that profit of rupees 1000 into again two equal parts, that is 500 and 500. But at the same time, suppose if we are, partner in the ratio of 3:1, it is not always possible that you are partners in the ratio of 1:1 only. The ratio of partnership can be anything. It can be any number at all that the partners decide to give in. But in that particular case, the capital will also have to be provided in that particular ratio, and the profits and the losses shall also be divided in that particular ratio. So that is a given. Now, suppose if we both are partners in the ratio of 3:1, and there is a capital investment requirement of rupees 100, then in that case, I will be providing rupees 75 and Sarthak will be providing rupees 25. And suppose if we are earning a profit of rupees 1000, then in that particular case, again, I will be getting a profit of rupees 750 and Sarthak will be getting the profit of rupees 250. So this is how a partnership organization works. In Surat, you would have seen that many chartered accountancy firms, they are partnership firms in which, there will be 3 to 4 partners which are there and which are sharing all the profits and losses. In fact, the big 4 of CA's firms which are there in India, they are also ones in which they are based on partners. There are different partners in that particular firm, and they all are sharing the profits and losses in the particular ratio which has been decided by them. So that is about partnership. Now, third aspect we have of joint stock company. Again, this is something very, very common, very, very easy, and you all would be aware about it, that there are various companies. For example, Reliance, we have Tata, we have Infosys. So all those are the companies which are operating. And in that particular case, there are different types of companies again, which we will be going through when we are doing the chapter. There can be a private company, there can be a public company, which is listed on the stock exchange. And nowadays in the New Companies Act 2013, there was also the concept of one person company, OPC, that was introduced, and that is very, very famous. So there are different types of companies that we have, and based on the requirement, based on the capital requirement, and based on the size of the investment and the size of the business, it can be easily decided that what sort of company they require to operate with. So that was about joint stock company. And next we have cooperatives. Now, cooperatives is something very, very different, and usually cooperatives are the ones in which different people come together for a particular objective. And usually the objective that they are having in mind is not to earn profits, but to help out each other in that particular cooperative. So that is again something which we will be going through in detail in the chapter when we go through it. Now, the second aspect, the part 2 of unit 2, is of incentives and subsidies. So in this case, we are supposed to understand that what exactly incentives and what exactly subsidies are. So what exactly do you understand by incentive? Incentive is something, you would have heard of that story, there was a person jiske paas ek ghoda tha, and he had to, ghoda nahi, it was a donkey, I think. Yeah. So there was a person who had a donkey, and the donkey was very, very, very lazy. So, he used to ask the donkey to carry some load, and the donkey had to go to some other place. But the donkey would not move an inch because he was very, very lazy. So what did that particular person do? That he hung a carrot in front of that particular donkey, and he made that particular donkey walk. So there was an incentive which was there for the donkey. And what was that incentive? That there is a carrot which is hanging in front of me, and if I keep on walking and walking and walking, I will be able to, come near about to that carrot, and I will be able to relish that particular carrot. So that is a sort of incentive. Only in this case, you can say that, that person was fooling his own donkey, because the carrot was hanging at some distance, and no matter how much the donkey would walk, he would never be able to reach to that particular carrot, because the carrot was also moving along with the donkey. But in this particular case, what we mean by incentives is that there will be some motivation, there will be some aspect that will be provided to a particular entrepreneur if he is starting a particular business. Now what happens in this case, that there are some small scale industries which are not very profit making. In fact, for the first few years, a lot of losses would have to be incurred by the entrepreneur. But at the same time, the government wants some people, or the government wants someone who would make an initiative, or who would be a part of that particular industry. So in that particular case, what happens, that the government provides some incentives. In that case, the government would provide some motivation, some incentives based on which the people would be encouraged, so that they can go ahead and they can work in that particular aspect. For example, if you have heard that whenever any industry is getting set up in any particular rural area or in any particular backward area, it is not just the industry which is flourishing. It is very important to note that the entire society, that entire village will be the one which will be benefited. Now you will ask how. The industry is not going to go and distribute its profits to the village people ki bhai aao humne yahan industry set ki hai, aao we will give you profits. That is not how it is going to work. Then you will ask that, bhai ma'am, how is the village benefiting because of the incentives being given? So in this particular case, incentives means the people in that particular village will be provided with jobs, and they will be working in that particular industry. So there will be definitely a lot of revenue generation. Now, when that company is being set up, they would want the welfare of the employees in that particular area, so that they keep on working. If suppose some employee falls sick, then it is not just the loss of the employee. In fact, it is the loss of that particular company also. So now in that particular case, what they will do, they will set up a clinic, they will set up a hospital where the requirements of that particular employee can be met out. Now what happens in this particular case, that they would want educated employees also. Now it is difficult, it is expensive to bring about educated employees from other areas. So in this particular case, what we would do, we will set up a school, we will set up colleges, we will set up educational centers where training, education is provided to the people of that particular village, so that they are able to gain knowledge, and then they are able to be used or utilized in that particular industry. A very famous example is of the city of Jamshedpur in eastern India. What happened over there? That was a very rural kind of rustic kind of area which was there. But then the Tata Industries decided to set up their industries, their plants in that particular area. And now, in fact, more than Jamshedpur, it is very famously known as Tata Nagar, because everything over there has been set up by the Tatas. You will find schools, hospitals, in fact, gardens, public areas, which have been set up by the Tatas. Why? Because majority of the people in that particular area are employed by the Tatas. So the Tatas would definitely want the benefit, want advantage for their employees, and that is why they are providing them such benefits. Also, if you will see in Surat also, if you see the big companies such as Kripco, we have L&T. So those are the companies, which are not just getting work done from the employees, but they are providing them a lot of incentives also in the form of colonies that they have set up, from fruits, vegetables, canteens, crèche for children, yoga classes. Everything is something that they are arranging for their employees in their own township. So that is something which is an incentive. So now suppose if the government wants development of any particular rural area, तो गवर्नमेंट को अगर कोई विलेज को डेवलप करना है तो क्या करना पड़ेगा, गवर्नमेंट को वहां जाना पड़ेगा, अपने आदमी भेजने पड़ेंगे. देन दे विल हैव टू इन्वेस्ट इन द हॉस्पिटल, दे विल हैव टू इन्वेस्ट इन द स्कूल, दे विल हैव टू इन्वेस्ट इन द एम्प्लॉयमेंट ऑफ द पीपल. सो इंस्टेड ऑफ दिस, द गवर्नमेंट इज आल्सो very smart. Instead of doing all this, what does the government do? In this particular case, what does the government will do? The government usually goes there and usually introduces some scheme, in which particular case the government will say that, uh, you just they will give some incentive to any industry, to any company, that whoever sets up industry for this particular thing in this particular rural area, we will provide you land for only suppose 2 lakhs rupees instead of the 2 crores rupees value that that particular land is having. So these are the kinds of incentives that the government provides to a lot of industries, so that they go there, set up their business, and along with that particular industry, even the people and even that particular village will flourish at the same time. So this is the meaning of incentives, which the government usually provides to all the people. And definitely based on this concept, the government is able to save a lot of their money. At the same time, the people of villages are getting benefits because of this. Now, next we have the aspect of subsidy. Subsidy means that they will be providing them certain things at discounted rates. Instead of giving them some benefits, they will be providing them things at some discounted rate. For example, for the raw materials or for electricity, they will be not charging those particular units or those particular businesses at very, very high prices, but instead they will be providing them at reasonable rates the raw materials that are required. So again, because of this benefit, because of the selfishness of this benefit, there would be a lot of people who would want to go and set up their industries in this particular area. Now things are not always as smooth as we study in our books. At the same time, there are a lot of people, who would want to take undue advantage of these benefits that are given by the government. So there have been a lot of controversies whether how efficient these incentives and subsidies are. Are they really worthwhile? Are they really useful for the economy? So we will again go through those controversies, that what are those controversies that people are facing and the government is facing. Again, we will go through the concept of need for incentives. कि भाई incentives जरूरी है भी या नहीं, or are they just a waste of time? Then we will see various schemes of incentives and subsidies which the government has introduced, the advantages and disadvantages of incentives and subsidies, and also the idea of state and central government scheme. Now you all would be aware that every year in February, the government releases a budget in which they have a pre-planned idea of what they would want and how they would want to spend their money. So in that particular thing, we will be discussing as per the current budget that what the state and what the central government have decided to how to employ their money for the benefit of the small scale industries, and how much are they planning to give about in incentives and subsidies to the benefit of the industry. So that is something that we will be seeing. Now coming to the units of 3 and 4. So unit 3 and 4 will be the ones which are covered by Nandesh sir, but I'll just give a very, very basic and very brief introduction about these topics as well. So innovation is something where you are doing something new. Now in case of startup, if suppose there is an enterprise which is already providing you cab services from one place to another. So suppose if we have Uber, and at the same time Ola also comes into the scene, and it is also providing you service of transportation from one place to another. So in that particular case, both of them are startups because they have started something new of their own. Now innovation is something in which you are doing something which nobody else has done till that particular period of time. So it has to be completely out of the box. It has to be completely new, completely different, which nobody else would have done till that particular point of time. So it is very, very important to know that how innovation works, what is the role of individuals in innovation process, how the IT system has helped in innovation, and how the government is also helping in innovation. In innovation cases, usually the government provides incubation centers. Now incubation centers are such wherein the government is not just providing the startups or the businesses with money, but at the same time they are providing them technical, motivational, physical, economical support of all forms, so that they are able to rise above and so that they are able to successfully do what they wish to finish. And on the last unit, that is unit 4, we have the concept of open innovation and technology transfer. So in this particular case, we shall be seeing that, what open innovation is, how can the benefit of technology be transferred from one place to another, what are the methods of that, what are the economic barriers, and what is exactly the meaning of external as well as internal transfer of technology, and how it has shaped the world of innovation and the world of entrepreneurship. So this is a brief introduction about all the 4 units which we will be starting. So in this particular case, I'll be taking up unit 1 and 2, whereas Nandish sir will be taking up the unit of 3 and 4. Now, coming about the reference book that has to be used by all of you in this particular case, definitely I'll be sharing the PPT which I have prepared of unit 1 and 2 with all the students, which you can go through for your reference. But for your detailed study and from exams point of view, we have the reference book, which is the best, that is Dynamics of Entrepreneurial Development and Management Entrepreneur, Planning for Future Sustainable Growth by Mr. Vasant Desai. And it is a Himalaya publishing house book, which we have also freely available in our library. So please feel free to refer this book. I understand in these times of COVID, it is very, very difficult to, come to college or to gain access or to purchase any book. But this is just a suggestion. I would try to obtain the ebook, and if I'm able to, I'll try to pass it on to all of you. But till then, if any one of you is able to achieve access to this book, this is a book that we are going to refer throughout the entire year, throughout your entire S5 BBA. And I strongly recommend all of you to not just stay on the basis of the PPT, but to yourself read about the content which is given in this book, as it is very, very detailed and very, very informative and useful. Now, our mode of study that I'm going to follow is that we will be going through the PPT that I have prepared, and at the same time, I understand it is going to be a monologue, which I don't usually prefer, but in this particular situation, this is what we have best available. But still, I would want that, once we finish our units, or once we finish one particular unit, I would want that we are able to have a discussion on different startups that are there in this particular industry, because this is some subject which cannot be understood or which cannot be entirely gained from just the textbooks. This is something which has to be very, very much utilized, which has to be very much taken care of. If you are, if you are having practical knowledge, if you know that how startups have begun, how startups have failed, how startups have succeeded. So all that knowledge is very, very, very important whenever you are doing anything like this. So I hope you all are participative in that. Definitely after we have started a bit, I would like to share some case studies with you, which you people can go through, and then we can have a detailed discussion on them. So yeah, so dear students, this is it for today. In case you have any doubts about the syllabus or about the mode of study or the structure, please feel free to get back to me. You can post your questions in the Google Classroom that we have, and I'll be available, and I'll be very happy to answer to all your queries. So this is it for today. In the next class, we shall be starting with our unit 1. That is the location of an enterprise and steps for starting a small enterprise. So, okay, this is it for today. Have a great day. Take care. Be safe. And thank you very much for your time and for watching this video. Thank you.